are you?
Who are you guys?
Yeah, very good.
Unfortunately, you can't get fired either.
Yeah, you're in for the long haul, buddy. It doesn't matter. And we said before we went to the break that you were going to give us the absolute
The low-down, skinny,
winner
slam dunk
of
winner,
this race,
Talladega race.
without any. We can bet the farm, and you are the guy who is going to be there to make sure that we don't lose the sow.
Why don't I just pick the second place finish? that seems to be my modus operandi here lately.
Yeah, you did good last week.
Came close last couple of weeks.
Steve's
my pick,
Steve's the one that's been picking the winners, which is just not right. I mean, this is just not right.
That's because I got no money on this thing whatsoever. So that's the only way I can do that. Talk about Talladega a little bit for us, Dan.
Talladega is a process. I don't think that you look for winners. It'd be nice if you can pick them. It'd be nice if you can guess who they're going to be. But I think the more important thing about Talladega is to respect the process and don't take anybody that you're going to regret taking. Don't take anybody that you're going to feel bad if they crash. Because that's a strong likelihood that something's going to happen. And if Tony Stewart taught us something last year, Tony Stewart and Michael Waltrip's incident taught us anything last year, it's that it can happen at absolutely any time and any place on the field or on the in the field. So you're never safe. I think the best thing to do is to try to survive Talladega. I think it's what the drivers are more or less trying to do. They get the added bonus of being able to ramp up their intensity once the race starts, where the fantasy player doesn't. But they all go into this race with some sort of a laissez-faire attitude that they're and think they're going to just log laps and be cautious and what have you. And I think that's the way fantasy owners need to go into it also.
Is this a race where you're worse off trying to ride in the back, trying to ride in the middle? Because it seems to me that you, first of all, you don't know where the big one's going to come from. So it would seem to me the best place to be would be out in front, because chances are better that, you know, the 42 guys behind you are going to screw up than nobody in front of you.
Simple mathematics states that the fewer cars there are in front of you, the fewer drivers there are to make a mistake. But Tony Stewart was leading the race. Michael Waltrip was about to win the race. Tony Stewart blocked, or what, he didn't block. He protected his position and caused that massive crash. It's not a function really where you're running, but what time of the race it is and when that intensity is going to ramp up. Running in the back is not necessarily a bad thing for the first 100 laps or so, and for 150 laps, in case the big one happens. But you just never know when it's going to happen. They tend to happen after caution flag, and you don't get a chance to separate yourself. They tend to happen on green, white, checkered finishes, and you don't have a chance to separate yourself. So I think they're just a fact of life, and it's one reason I absolutely hate handicapping these races, because there's nothing predictive in a good way or a bad way where this is concerned, unless you're Marcus Ambrose or Juan Pablo Montoya, and you know they're going to crash at some time during the afternoon. Other than that, it's kind of a crapshoot.
All right, with all that being said, who you got in your A, B, and C?
We pretty much know it's not going to be Ambrose or
well, in B, it's
JP.
Ambrose and Montoya, just for the heck of it. They got to get out of this crashing mode eventually. Actually, the way I set my roster for the restrictor plates is to look at drivers that are high enough on the list that they're pertinent, but I've got enough allocations remaining that it doesn't matter to me if they crash. So I would say, rather than picking a driver, what you want to do is you're going to take someone in A that you've got 8, 7 allocations remaining for, and that's going to be your top driver. Harvick tends to do well on this type of track. I think he's someone that should be up there and probably hasn't been exhausted. And Boyer had a couple of wins and a second-place finish in in successive races, so he's up there where Group A is concerned. Down in B, it gets a little more tricky. If you're going to do it by the numbers, Truex has been as good as anybody else, and he has good credentials coming from DEI. And with Michael Waltrip Racing, those guys should be good with their plate setups. Biffle, another good driver. Earnhardt is no longer the Pied Piper, but he's still relevant on the plate tracks. And probably Eric Almirola. For a young gun, he tends to hold a pretty steady will. He finished 33rd in last year's Daytona, but he swept the top 20 in his other 5 starts, I think, the last 6, with the best of 10th at Talladega this spring, and he's got an average of about 15. So Almirola would be kind of my dark horse pick in Group B. Jumping down to C, pick him. Michael Waltrip has run well. He would have won last year. He didn't do well at Daytona, but he's coming off back-to-back top 10s at Talladega in the spring and Daytona in the summer. Might as well put him on your roster. And then any of those other part-time drivers, maybe Trevor Bayne, maybe Sam Hornish, maybe Danica Patrick. She didn't do well at Talladega, but she's done well in both Daytona races. So if you want to use a Danica Patrick pick, this is a good place to use it. But mostly, like I said, what I do is I look for drivers who I have a lot of allocations remaining, and that's who I put on my roster.
All right. That all makes just tons of sense. But now we're going to put you on the spot, and you got to pick one to win the race. So who's your guy to pick? Who do you think's going to win it?
Brett Bodine.
Well, chances are good that you are correct.
I'd say let's go with Kevin Harvick. He's a Group A driver. I think that's still where the wins are going to come from, and he's got some momentum on his side. I think he survives, and he wins.
All right, Dan. He is Dan Beaver. You can follow him on Twitter at Fantasy Race. Read all of his terrific fantasy racing articles at NASCAR.com and YahooSports.com. Of course, listen to his fantasy advice and tips here on Pit Row every week on Tuesdays, and watch the replays on Ustream TV and on YouTube. Dan, thanks again for your time this week. Good luck with your picks. Enjoy the weather down Texas way, and we will talk to you next week about Martinsville and your results from Talladega.
Thank you very much.
All right, Dan Beaver. All right, you two, you got to make picks for Talladega. Who you taking, Beth Ann? Who's your pick? Don't be shaking your head. That's not an option. You have to take someone. Jamie McMurray. That's who you took last week, isn't it?
That is who I took last week.
I thought so.
I tried
you tried to slip one in there. I was going to say, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. You took him. I think Dan's the one that took whoever finished second.
It could be.
All right, who you taking?
I'm taking Maddie.
Maddie
Kenseth.
Maddie Kenseth?
Yep. And you are?
I am Charlie Turner. I'm taking...
if I had $1 million in my wallet, I would have bet the entire thing that you were going to say that.
Really?
I honest to God, I would have. Didn't you know that he was going to say that?
That was the question, wasn't it?
Well,
you are?
And you are going to take as the winner of this race at Talladega this upcoming weekend is?
I'm going to take Dale Earnhardt Jr. again.
You can ride that pony until it scores.
Sooner or later, he's going to win a race.
Okay.
Where is he more likely to win? Anywhere but at Talladega.
Yeah, not anymore.
No, probably not. You're probably right, but that's what I'm taking. I just still think